Oh, you wanna know what the woman that gave birth to me did to me? Let me tell you. I've been waiting to air
that I am expected to treat my parents' problems with a level of compassion that I was never given as a child.
Let's talk about the phrase, I did the best I could. In my personal experience, anytime that I brought up to my birth mother all the shitty things that she did to me as a child and how they affect me as an adult, she would just tell me, well, I did my best. I did the best that I could with what I had. And that's supposed to excuse the abuse and the narcissism and the gaslighting and just never making me feel safe around her. That's the excuse. I did the best I could. But if I ever dared to tell her I did the best I could with literally anything when I was a child, she would have told me, you need to try harder. That's not your best. You need to do more. You can do more. You're not doing your best. You're being lazy. So I'm supposed to have compassion for you and all the things that you did because that was your best, and completely ignore how all the things you did affect me now as an adult, but my best is never enough.
Do something with it.
It's just money coming to me easily. Money coming in and needing me. Money coming in repeatedly. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me frequently. Money coming in to be with me. Money coming in secretly. Money coming in.
Oh, you wanna know what the woman that gave birth to me did to me? Let me tell you. I've been waiting to air this bitch out. I'm just gonna insert every possible trigger warning, like, this is a lot. My mother single-handedly caused me to develop an eating disorder at the ripe age of 6 years old. She used to beat me until I ate all of my food. She didn't finally take me to the hospital until it got to the point to where she would beat me and I still wouldn't eat the food. Like, I stopped giving a fuck. And then she finally took me to the hospital. To this day, almost 20 years later, I still have a complicated relationship with food. When I was 7 years old and my mother was getting remarried and I decided to tell some of my friends because I was excited about my mom getting married, she found out, beat the living shit out of me, and threw me out of the house at the ripe age of 7. For some reason, when I was 9 years old, my mother had this sudden fear that I was gonna end up pregnant at 9. So she would show me these horrifying, disgusting videos of people that were dying of AIDS in hospitals and be like, that's what's gonna happen to you if you decide to have sex. And I was 9. And because of this irrational fear, when there was a day when I was in like 2nd or 3rd grade, she couldn't find me when she came to pick me up from school. And she accused me of doing things in a bathroom with 3 other boys. 9. Not even in the double digits yet. There was this one time when I was in 8th grade, I woke up in the morning to get ready for school, and I guess I woke up late or whatever, so my mom woke me up with a belt, beat me. That was the first thing that I got that morning. But I also happened to have like an absolutely horrible headache, and when I tried to tell my mother about it, she didn't give a fuck and told me to get dressed and get ready for school. I go to school, and I'm crying in first period, so much so that my teacher writes me a note and sends me to the nurse, and the nurse sends me home because I have a fever of 102. And my mother, when she picked me up, had the audacity to say, well, I didn't know you were feeling bad like that, bitch! When I was 15 and started self-harming, my mother tried to beat and pray the depression out of me, saying that I had a devil inside of me or some fucking shit. When I was 16 and my mother found out that I had a boyfriend, she decided that she couldn't trust me in my room anymore and that I had lost my bed privileges, and so she made me sleep on the floor in the living room for a month. And this was in December, so I was just sick all the time. It was horrible. When I was 17 and was so depressed with the life that I was living and told my mother that I wanted to unalive myself, she handed me a knife and told me to go do it. When I was 18 and got SA'd and told my mother about it, she beat me half to death, threw me out of the house for about 5 days, and then when she finally let me back in the house, she forced me to sit there with her, my rapist, and his parents while all 4 of them tried to tell me that I was a liar and didn't know what I was talking about. And then she brought me back home, beat me again, and when I tried to get her off of me, she called the police and told them that I tried to assault her, and they arrested me. That shit's still on my record. And let's not forget when I was 22 and called her because my fiance had cheated on me for the 3rd time and I was in absolute tears, and she told me to give him another chance because she could tell how much he loved me. And that's not even a 4th of the shit that she's done. Yeah, fuck her. I don't speak to her. Fuck her. Y'all wanted a part 2? Again, inserting every possible trigger warning. This is a lot. My first time ever blacking out was with my mother. She choked me so hard that everything just went completely black for a minute. I don't remember much. All I remember is coming to and I'm laying on the floor, my throat is really, really hurting, and she's standing above me yelling at me to get up. My mother had an issue with us taking naps when we got home from school. I would get home from school at like 3:15. My mom wouldn't get home until like 5. If she came home and we just so happened to be taking a nap, she would wake us up and scream at us and get so mad at us for sleeping. And I don't know why.
My senior year of high school, I went to the homecoming dance with my best friend. When my mother came to pick me up, she saw a guy that I had a crush on in the parking lot with a bunch of other people. So she proceeded to call me, scream at me, and curse me out, saying that I better not be out in the parking lot having sex with him. I was inside, dancing with my friends. I had no idea what she was talking about. Me and my best friend get inside because she's taking my best friend home, and my mother just screams at me the entire ride home with my best friend in the car. My friend is trying to tell her, like, hey, we were inside. She was with me the whole time. She wasn't with him. My mother was not trying to hear any of that. She never apologized. She never even acknowledged it again, and she was completely wrong. When I was 17, I was hospitalized for attempting to unalive myself. And the entire 2 days that I was in the hospital, my mother was there complaining to everyone that she had to miss work for this foolishness, telling all the doctors that I was just doing this for attention, saying that I wasn't actually depressed, that I just needed to pray more, and refused to believe the doctors when they told her, ma'am, your daughter is depressed. She didn't care. I ended up spending time in a psych ward during that period of my life. When I was in 8th grade, I had a reaction to some peanuts while I was at a choir competition. I had always known that peanuts did not make me feel good, but I had never been tested for it, so I wasn't allergic. But I ate some by accident, my lips started swelling up, and I was not feeling well. And so my director called my mother and was like, do we need to call an ambulance? She's having an allergic reaction. And my mother's just on the phone like, well, she's never been tested for it, so I don't know what she's talking about. The school the competition was at was like 5 minutes from our house. My mom took about 30 minutes to get there. She found me puking in the bathroom, gave me some Benadryl, and told me to stop being so dramatic. A month later, she got me tested, and yes, I am highly allergic to peanuts. She never apologized for that, but she sure does think it's funny to tell other people how she almost let me die. One time, my sister and I proposed to my mother that we go and live with my sister's dad. Like, we had come up with a whole plan because we were just miserable. I was 13, my sister was 9. When we told our mother that we wanted to go and live with my sister's dad, she lost her mind. Started beating the fuck out of both of us, calling us ungrateful bitches, and we just felt so horrible for trying to leave our situation. When I was 16, my mother took me to a gynecologist to get my hymen checked to make sure that I was still a virgin. She promised to get me a car if I was. I was still a virgin. I never got the car. My mother always parked her car in the garage. So every single day when we heard that garage opening, we had to go out to that door, open it, and make sure that she didn't need help with anything or she didn't need us to do anything for her. Immediately when she got home, that was our responsibility every day. There was one day that she came home and I was in the shower and she just so happened to have groceries, and so when I can't even get out the shower good. I didn't even know she was home yet. She starts banging on the bathroom door and she's like, get your lazy ass out of that shower and come help me with these groceries. And I was so confused. When I was 12 and she taught me how to wash dishes for the first time, I washed the silverware after the pots and pans and she beat me for it. She didn't tell me to wash the silverware first. I didn't know. And that's not all. I can still make a part 3. I probably will make a part 3. So how did I get out of my mother's house? Let's talk about it. I want to start off by saying that I don't make these videos because I want sympathy or because I want y'all to feel bad for me. It's literally just because for a really long time I wasn't allowed to talk about the things that my mother did to me because she didn't want me to tell anyone. And so now that I can talk about it, I'm gonna talk about it. Some of y'all were asking for a part 2. I will be doing a part 2 because there's a whole lot more. So I was living with my mother until I was 20 years old. I was going to college like 15 minutes away. It just made sense for me to live at home. My mother did not like me dating. That was just something that she did not like, which is so wild because she gave me permission to date. She told me that it was totally fine, but the fact that I was actually doing it, she didn't like that. Like the fact that I wouldn't be at home all the time, like sometimes I'd be out with my boyfriend. She didn't like that. If you've come from the last couple of videos, you know that my mother didn't really use logic when she did shit, so. She also really loved to threaten me and my sister, and so with me having a boyfriend, anytime that she got mad at me or whatever, and since I was past the age of 18, she would be like, well, you can get the fuck out of my house and you can go live with your boyfriend. I don't need you here. After I like left a sock in the living room or some shit. On this particular day, she was gone off and mad at me about something, and she was like, you can go live with your boyfriend. I don't need you here. You don't need to be here. Since you got a boyfriend, you can go live with him instead. And so I was like, okay. I'll call him after he gets off of work and ask him if I can stay with him. If that's what you want. If you don't want me here that bad, she ain't like that. This woman went off
on me, and then went in my room and started grabbing my shit and started throwing it outside. My clothes, my shoes, my laptop that I was using for school, everything thrown outside. And it was raining that day. So my laptop got ruined, all my clothes got wet, and she would not let me back in the house. I called my boyfriend, and he was stuck at work, so he couldn't come get me, so he sent his roommate to come and get me. And my mother tells people that I left on my own, willingly, that she didn't kick me out. A few years later, she kicked my sister out. Twice. But the difference there was my sister wasn't even legal yet. She was 17, still in high school. My mother was an empty nester before her final child was above the age of 18. That should tell you a lot about who my mother is. Yeah, you're right. It is weird that I'm the one that went to jail instead of my mother. My mother had been slapping me, punching me, yanking me by my hair, pulling me along the floor, throwing me up against walls, choking me, all of that. And I was just taking it. It got to the point to where she was on top of me, choking me so hard that I blacked out. Because one minute I'm on the floor looking up into her eyes and she's choking me, and the next thing I know, she's standing up, looking down at me, screaming at me to get up. I stand up, she starts choking me again and starts like wrestling me down to the floor again. Keep in mind, my mother's weight at this point was like a good 230. I didn't weigh more than like 115. I was no match for her. But when she started wrestling me back to the ground and started choking me again, I start trying to push her off of me. That was when she lost it, because she's like, oh, you trying to fight me? Like, no, I'm trying to get you to stop. But she took that, me trying to push her off of me while she was choking me, as me trying to fight her. And so she told my sister to call the police and tell them that I was fighting her. The police and an ambulance both show up at the house. My mother says that I attacked her and I was trying to fight her. And I was literally laying on the ground thinking that my neck was cracked because of how hard she had been choking me. I left the house in an ambulance with a neck brace on. Went to the hospital, they got me checked out, my neck was bruised, but it was fine. I signed the paperwork that the cops gave me saying that I couldn't press charges against my rapist. And I remember so clearly, I was sitting in the hospital bed, and there was a cop sitting to the right of me, and he's like, you know, when you get out of here, we have to arrest you, right? I was like, haha, funny. And he was like, I'm not kidding, we have to arrest you. I'm immediately like, arrest me? But and he's like, don't say anything to me. Anything that you say from this point forward can be used against you if this goes to court. Don't say anything. I was freshly 18. This happened in December. My 18th birthday was in November. So once they released me from the hospital, I was put in handcuffs, put in the back of a squad car, and taken to jail. Took a mugshot. They did fingerprints on me, threw me in a holding cell. I was there for 4 days. I don't remember sleeping, because I was so scared, and they kept moving me from holding cell to holding cell. I was with a group of random individuals that I didn't know. I was freaking out. I don't remember really eating. I don't remember ever using the bathroom the entire time I was there. I was there so long because I got arrested on a Saturday. And you know, Harris County, it's gonna take forever to get through that. So I was there all through Saturday, all through Sunday, all through Monday, and then I got processed out at like 3 a.m. on Tuesday. What I didn't know is that there was a protection order against me saying that I couldn't be within a certain amount of feet of my mother. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, the dead end of December. It's freezing. I don't have a jacket. I don't have a phone. I don't have money. I don't have anything, and I'm stuck in downtown Houston. Literally the most horrible couple of days of my entire life. I eventually got home, but it wasn't easy. I did what I had to do to get a ride back to my side of town, if you catch my drift. Freshly 18. Had no idea what I was doing, had no idea what was happening, had no idea what was going to end up happening. I had to go to court a couple of times. I had to do these call check-ins with this, not exactly a parole officer, but I guess somebody just checking to make sure that I'm not like around my mother. Can you imagine being a senior in high school and you have to step out of choir class to make a government call to somebody telling them, yeah, I'm not around my mother? It was a wild time in my life. And the crazy thing about this is, we're not even putting them in retirement homes anymore. You will suffer alone in your house, surrounded by no one, and you will die there. How are you gonna abuse me for 20 damn years and then expect me to pay for a retirement home for you? No, I will let you rot, respectfully. The only way I would pay for a retirement home is if I was rich and the money didn't mean nothing to me. But even then, I'd put that money towards something more useful. After how shitty some of these parents have been, a retirement home with abusive people and horrible conditions, that's letting you off easy. We're not doing that. Oh, you can't go to the bathroom without assistance? Oh, fucking well. Shit yourself. Respectfully. Now, my mother has 2 daughters. There's me and my sister. My sister is the nice one. That's not me. My mother might get lucky and my sister might end up taking care of her, but she better count her motherfucking blessings, because if it was up to me, fuck anybody that's like, oh, you're being too harsh, you need to be appreciative, you're so ungrateful, your parents did so much for you. What did they do aside from abuse me, traumatize me, and make my life a living hell? Fuck off.
Oh yeah, all the time. She threatened to kill us, literally all the time. Matter of fact, I have a recording of her threatening to kill my sister. A little bit of context on this. My mom had kicked my sister out, and my sister just wanted to come back and get her clothes and such. This is what my mother said to that.
So, I don't give a fuck what Claudia said. Her daddy can buy her some motherfucking clothes. Because she can't come back here. All this shit, I'm just to get this motherfucking shit. I'm just to get this house cleaned up. All this shit is to go in the trash. She can't bring her motherfucking ass back here.
From there, she went on a long-ass tangent that just went on and on and on. And at the very, very end of it, she said this.
No, she can't come. I don't want to see that motherfucker. If you bring her here, I swear to God, I'm going to get my pistol. I'm going to blow her motherfucking brains out. I mean that.
I said I wasn't going to expose her name or her face, but y'all can hear what she sounds like. I live in a one-party state, so the only person's consent that I needed to record was mine. She is depicted as this sweet and gentle woman that like everyone thinks is so nice and so amazing. That's who she really is.
Oh yeah, I have to keep receipts on me. And this is why. The last time I spoke to my mother, she was extremely like sickly sweet. Like, I want to fix our relationship. I'm sorry for what I've did, blah, 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 because I told her that I didn't want anything to do with her anymore. That's when she finally fucking apologized. The breaking point was we were on the phone having a conversation and she was yelling at me, like ranting at me for like 30 damn minutes about something that had absolutely nothing to do with me. So she's yelling at me and just making me super uncomfortable. And I'm like, I'm not about to sit on the phone and listen to her scream at me for something that somebody else did. So I hung up. I told her, listen, this doesn't have anything to do with me. You're yelling at me for no reason. I don't like it, so I'm hanging up. And I hung up. This is what transpired from that. First, she started with the, I want to let you know that I forgive you. And then she was like, I'm coming through your city tomorrow. I want to see you, daughter. And I said, I do not wish to see you. Claudia is staying in town that I live in for the summer. You should go see her. Claudia is my sister. It's okay, baby. No matter what, I will always love you. I'm here to give you love when you need it. I'm always praying for you. Blah, blah, blah. Then she tried again. I know you've been going through hard times, but remember, I am always here for you when you need me. I love you always. With the emojis again. Then, I would still love to see you. I love you and your sister always. We haven't spoken since you hung up on me. We need to fix our relationship. Are you open to family counseling? Just all of this shit that she never, ever, ever brought up or even, like, showed any interest in until I decided, fuck you, I'm done with you. I didn't give a fuck. I said, I am not interested in anything to do with you. I hope you get the help you need. From there, she called me and left me like this long voicemail talking about how sorry she was and how much she loved me and we need to fix our relationship and all of this. And I'm like, no, I'm done. I don't want to fix shit. You haven't been wanting to fix anything for 20 damn years and now all of a sudden you want to fix something because you're losing your daughter? No. So I sent her this. Pause to read if you have to. Then she sent this to my sister. If I had $1 for every chance I have given this woman to fix her relationship with me, to be a better mom, and to not traumatize me for the rest of my life, and she did not give a fuck until I finally said, fuck you, I'm done. She is blocked. I do not speak to her. I will never speak to her again. I mean, yes, she played a pretty big part in my deconstruction. My mother, like, swore by her Bible. She always kept it on her. She was always reading it. She was always pointing out quotes in it. I was in the church before I could even walk. She swore up and down that she was a God-fearing woman and that she was going to heaven when she died and that I was a demon and was going to burn in hell when I died. I believe the first time she tried to, like, pray the devil out of me was when I was, like, 8 or 9, I think. I honestly do not know what I was doing that would have led her to believe that I had a demon in me. She brought 2 pastors over to our house. One was our church pastor and one was like the superintendent pastor, and they all like laid hands on me, like trying to pray the devil out of me because my mom told them that I was evil for
whatever fucking reason. That didn't exactly strengthen my faith in God or my faith in the church, really. Some fucking Christian's gonna be like, you have to build your own relationship with God. You need to seek him. He wasn't speaking through your mother and blah, 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 blah. I don't give a singular fuck about what God is trying to say or anything like that. You know why? Because God didn't give a singular fuck while he watched me get abused for 20 damn years and did absolutely nothing to stop it. I've said in a video before that God and my abusive mother were very, very similar with the tactics they used and the things that like made sense to them. So if I'm not fucking with my mother, obviously I'm not fucking with God either. I'm so grateful to be away from both of them. Exactly. And people who do not grow up in abusive households do not understand this. I did not know that I was being abused until I was 16, 17, something like that. Before that, I was like, my mother loves me. I'm in a great situation. She takes us on trips. She buys me gifts. Sometimes she's really scary and makes me scared, but I mean, she loves me. I had no idea. That honestly is also why I make my videos, because there's probably a bunch of people that are on TikTok right now that have absolutely no idea that they are currently in an abusive situation, because it is all that they have ever known. So they don't see it as something bad. They just see it as their normal life. Yeah, I saw my mom choking me out and slamming me up against walls as normal. It was all that I ever knew. I thought everyone's parents did that. Like, I thought that was just normal parenting. That is why I hate when people are like, well, why didn't you just leave? Why didn't you run away? Why didn't you fight back? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? In most cases, we don't know that we're supposed to. It is not always fight mode. Sometimes we just fucking freeze because we don't know what else to do. Or we deal with it because we think that that's what a normal parent-child relationship is supposed to be. Yeah, I did. I called them twice. First time was when I was 6 years old. My mother had beat me really bad and then for some reason made me sit in a bathtub of hot water and rubbing alcohol. I don't know why that happened, but I had a mark on my arm, and so I went to school the next day. My teacher saw the mark, asked me about the mark. I told her the truth because nobody had taught me to lie yet. She told the principal. The principal got on a phone call with like a CPS agent and my mother on like a three-way call, and I was sitting in the office. My mother basically was like, I was trying to give her a spanking, and she moved her arm behind her back, and I ended up hitting her arm. That's all that happened. So nothing came of that. But 10 years later, when I was 16, it happened again. This was the story of my mother found out I had a boyfriend, made me sleep on the living room floor for a month. It was this story. That first week of her finding out was absolute hell. She would wake up every morning and beat the fuck out of me before I went to school. And then she would come home from work and beat me again. Every day. This was an everyday. There was no peace. I was always sitting wherever I was at, just terrified that she was going to come out at any moment and start beating on me. One time, I'll never forget, she came home, came around the corner, didn't say shit, grabbed the binder that I was working on because I was sitting at the kitchen table doing my homework, grabbed the binder and starts beating me with it. And just beat me out of the chair. My sister is sitting on the other side. She don't know what to do. One morning after she beat me, she was like, and wait until you get home. It's going to be even worse when you get home. And I was terrified. So I went to school and I told my friends about what was going on. And they were like, I really think you should talk to one of the counselors. And I was like, fuck it. Okay. So I went to go tell one of them. And I was like, I'm scared to go home because my mother has been beating on me nonstop for the past couple of days because of this situation. At that point, they had to report it. Like they couldn't let me go back to class. So my counselor sits there. We call the CPS agent. The agent asks me a bunch of questions. I fill out the report like through the phone. I tell her everything that I know. I was in the counselor's office all day that day with all of the counselors. The school police officers were in there. It was a whole thing. Now, remember that pastor from my other story that was the son of the guy that raped me? He was on the school board. And so my mother ended up calling him when she found out what was going on. So they both came up to the school to talk to me. And my mother worked for the school district. So the teachers at my school and the counselors and everybody, they all knew her. They came to the school, sat me down in one of like the conference offices and tried to convince me that I was trying to get my mother in trouble for nothing. Soon after this happened, my mother pulled me and my sister out of that school and moved us to Dallas. And so we were a couple of hours away from where we were at to go live with my auntie because apparently my auntie could straighten me out. But while we were living in Dallas, the CPS agent called us and was like, we need to sit down and have a face-to-face meeting. And my mother told me that if I did not tell them that I made everything up and did a false report on her, that they were going to take me away and they were going to put me in a home with horrible foster parents that were going to rape me and abuse me. With a lot of emphasis on the first part. I was terrified. I was like, I would rather be in a house with someone who doesn't make me feel safe, but at least I believe that they love me, than to be with strangers. That was my mindset. So when the CPS agent came, I told her that I made everything up. And they ended up putting that in the report. So the report, which I have on my computer, literally, I have the CPS report, says that I lied. All of my school counselors thought I was just a straight up liar for the rest of the time that I was in school. If any of them see this, I was telling the truth. Like, the whole time, everything that I said was real. She was the one that told me to fucking lie so that I could save her. Because she was like, you're trying to get me fired from my job. You're trying to make my life a living hell. Why do you hate me so much? So yeah, called CPS. It didn't work out the way that I wanted it to.
The worst part of it all is the fact that no one likes to apologize. For example, the mom, that young lady's mother, right? She did all these things to her, and yet she's a God-fearing woman who is damn near a Bible thumper, according to what she's saying, who basically is like an angel to everybody else, but meanwhile, she's doing those things to her own kids. Imagine you picking up the Bible to read the Word of God after you done did something crazy like that to your child. And then you go to church and you praise the Lord and you sing and you do all these things like this, like the true hypocrite Christian that you are. Because the thing is, a lot of the people who do those things to their children, mistreat their kids, are the most horrible human beings who literally treat other people like shit, are usually the ones sitting in the church, right in the front row, with the staring at the pastor and giving the biggest tithing. And when she told the part about how her auntie basically thought she was this horrible person because that's how her mother described her, it's because her mother is always trying to make herself look good in front of people, because that's what narcissistic people do. They hate to look horrible in public, right? They hate to look horrible in public, but they do all these horrible things to people and the people around them, the people who love them. They do all these horrible things, but God forbid you embarrass them in public. Oh, hell break loose. So that's really what it is. And the thing is, they will always go in front of you and tell a different story before you even get your story out. Yeah. Or they'll try to make themselves look better in the story before you even get the second side of the story. Oh, trust me, I know plenty of people like that, and a lot of them are in my family. Yes. It's crazy. It's sad. It's actually pathetic, honestly, because you usually are the one who try to keep the family together. After a while, you just have to realize that your peace of mind is more important. And I'm glad that young lady was able to get out of that, because I'm pretty sure she still have a level of respect and love for her mother, because that's her mother. First of all, I cannot imagine me giving birth to a child and then them not talking to me, because the way I would be stressing about my kid, to the point where I would have to, do some spiritual work to make sure I'm tied to you, so that way if something horrible is happening, I know what's happening to my child, because it's not easy bringing a child into this world, okay? So I know people who died during childbirth, so no one's gonna tell me what I should and should not be doing with my child. You know what I mean? But imagine you never hearing from your own children again, your own child again, because of your behavior, because of things that you do to your kids. And your kids have every right to walk away and not talk to you, because their mental health is important and it needs to be taken. A lot of time in a child-parent dynamic, the child feels as if they're not being respected by their parents, and the parent is not respecting the child because they feel like you're a child, you should stay in the child's place. But at the end of the day, the child actually have their own personality. They're little people. They might be like 5, but they have personality. They have, their own thoughts. They should be able to express themselves without being talked down to, and tell them to go sit in the corner because you're a child and stay out of your, stay in a children's place. And I get it. Children should stay in a children's place, but they also should be able to express themselves to their parents and letting them know, this is what's making me upset, this is what's not making me upset. The things that you did, I did not like, because they have feelings as well. And I noticed that in a lot of Black community, they treat children as if like they have no say-so in anything. Children can reincarnate. You know that? That is the reason why they say, oh, you act like your aunt. Yeah, so some kids choose to reincarnate. For example, grandma can choose to reincarnate into the daughter that you're about to have, and now she really have the grandma's soul, but she's a child. You're a child, so you basically just gave birth to your own mom. You know what I mean? And a lot of time people will say, oh, this person literally acts like uncle whatever that passed away like 20 years ago, but they have the same demeanor, same attitude, same everything. It could very much be uncle whatever that reincarnated. You know, uncle whatever used to be an adult, so they know all these things that were happening. That is the reason why some children are more advanced than other children, because they have that knowledge from another life, because they possibly reincarnated. So they do deserve the respect, even though they're children. Even like whenever my sisters bring their children around, I literally give them the respect that I would give an adult, okay? Because they are people and they have feelings and they understand things. And you have to give them that respect that they... I know a lot of time I do go off and I talk about a bunch of stuff when I'm talking about something, right? But I like to channel whatever's coming to me while I'm talking about a topic. So therefore the reincarnation thing, yes, that's what I was thinking about. And it makes sense in my head, and it makes sense about the topic I'm talking about respecting children, you know? And a lot of parents, and I can only speak for the Black community because that's the community that I'm in. And I have been around for a pretty long time, you know? And I noticed that a lot of parents will literally talk down to their children like, you're so stupid, you're so dumb, you will never amount to be anything. Why won't you do that to your kid? And then you will treat them, you will mistreat them, you know, as children. And then whenever they go no contact, you wonder why your children don't talk to you anymore. And then when they decide not to have any kids, you all upset like, oh, you're not going to continue the bloodline. You're not I don't want to bring no kids in this dysfunctional bloodline, you know, especially